Hi guys, welcome back to Nana Chats. Thank you so much for coming back again to join us this week. And we're back again with another interesting topic. Today we have Dr. Precious, who's just gonna discuss with us life as a mum, as a professional, and also with a business with her husband, and just learn some tips from her about how she maneuvers and how she gets around it.
Hi, thanks for having me, Nana. Hi, everyone.
The first thing I wanted to ask you is, what's your occupation?
I'm a senior lecturer at the University of Bedfordshire. My specialty is in intellectual and developmental disability, so I teach disability topics or units, let's say.
And what does that involve, like day to day?
Okay, so on a daily basis, that's if I'm teaching, if it's a day where I have to go in to teach or lecture, it starts before the day. Because you have to prepare your lecture, you have to do research with the books, get the topics. So for example, let's say I'm teaching on spirituality and quality of life of people learning disabilities, for example. I have publications in that area, so I'll probably be fresh, go to my publications, read on it, and then maybe find some books or some other authors who have done similar research just to get more detail and more information, depending on the angle I want to go with the students. So the preparation starts at least sometimes a week or a few days before the day. And then on the day, you can show up, in the lecture, obviously pre-COVID. Pre-COVID. So in the lecture room, depending on the group you're teaching, you may have like between 30 to, depending on, for example, at our university, we get a lot of students. So I'm within the health and social care team. And in the first year, we get over 100 students. So in a lecture room, you would have about 100 students or more. Yeah, so that's what you would have. So you would obviously have the slide up, and then you go through the lecture theory, some practice, some exercises with the students, some questions they may ask you, some asked, some don't. But it's quite nice when you get a group discussion going on, as long as it doesn't end up in argument, because students have different views. But it's just having that skill and the ability to kind of settle any arguments that may come up, and kind of letting the students know that this is a discussion and be open to everyone's views. And they're here to learn, to listen, and accept people's views. That's what they are, and do the necessary. So that's a typical day. Because obviously I commute, it takes me a while. Let's say it takes me about 1 hour, 40 minutes on the train. But obviously that doesn't include walking to the station and walking to the university. But I don't mind the commute. It's quite nice. You get to do work on the train. That's one of the perks for me, because I don't drive. I blame studying for not driving. I know many people who were studying obviously learn how to drive. I know, Nana, you studied and you know how to drive. But that's my blame. I blame studying and my lack of desire to drive. So that's my typical day. So preparing for lectures, going into lecture, group of students, between 100 or more, having the lecture, having interactive activities with students, and in the lectures, having office hours, for example, where students come to ask about anything. It could be, they need help with assignments, or they need help explaining, they want to explain some topics a bit more, or it may not even be related to academic studies. It may be related to them finding certain things difficult, and then you just refer them to support, for example, by mental health support, if it's financial support. So it's kind of all round, really.
That really sounds like a full-on job.
It is actually full on. It can be full on. So that's a typical day if I go into teach. Typical day if I'm working from home. This is pre-COVID, by the way. Even working from home, it's loads of emails. from students, again, wanting either a meeting, wanting explanation on certain topics again, or if, for example, you just released their grades and they didn't pass or they didn't do well, if students, thinking they should have done better, they don't deserve the grade you gave them. Or students saying, oh, thank you so much for the grade, thank you for your support, thank you for, teaching me, I learned a lot. So you get a lot dealing with those emails. And obviously there are other administrative stuff that you have to deal with then, managing staff, coordinating teaching. Because as part of my role, I also coordinate our college partnership, because we also have our courses at Tresham College, Central Bedfordshire College, Banfield, and Bedford College. So I kind of coordinate those courses. So kind of liaising with the staff who teach those units at the colleges and those that lead them at the university campus. So it's quite a lot in terms of the administrative stuff. So it's typically 9 to 5, but I wouldn't say 9 to 5. It's ongoing, to be honest.
Do you know, for one point in my life, I thought, oh, maybe I could be a lecturer, but then I thought, nah. The only bit that I was interested in was actually delivering the lecture. That was it. But I knew that there's a whole part of it where you have to do research and you have to get funding, and those things didn't excite me. So I was like, yeah, that's not for me.
I mean, yeah. So, and then the research angle, like you just said, it's another thing. It's filled with rejections, a lot of rejections. We have you're asking for money, you're asking for these funders to fund your, this brilliant project that you have in your mind. But in their mind, it's not that brilliant. But you may get one or two people who are like, yeah, why not? We can fund you. But it's very competitive. And with Brexit right now, it's tight. Money is kind of tight, research money. So yeah, you have all of that to deal with. You have also publications to deal with. There's that pressure to publish almost every year. So yeah,
that's what put me off, having to publish papers and write. Yeah, I think I did enough of writing papers at uni, and yeah, basically, I just wanted to do the lecturing. That's it. But not the.
No, I mean it is intense, because obviously I think that's the general. People may have their assumption that okay, you just have to go in and teach, and that's all when you're done. But I mean, it's not. It's quite full on, but it's nice. It's interesting because you're kind of contributing to the learning of other people. It's quite nice when you see a student get something, like when you explain a topic in a certain way and you see a student going from not getting it to getting it and doing really well. Very rewarding. So it's quite nice when you see the journey that students have been through, and it's not just that you're grading them down because you have any personal things against them. It's just you're trying to get them to do well, and you can't just give them a great grade because, I don't know, you like them or anything like that. It doesn't really help them, to be honest. But yeah, it's nice. It's a nice job, I think. But I guess I'm biased.
Yeah, I guess everyone would be. My next question to you is, I know that you have an amazing charity with your husband called Books to Africa. Could you just let us know a bit more about that as well, and how you contribute in that sense?
Yeah, so Books to Africa is a UK registered charity. We started as a student group. When we came back from Nigeria, actually, because we had, it was the first time I'd been to Nigeria in 10 years. We did it was a knocking on the door, they call it, like an engagement. So you had to come to my village and say you're interested in marrying me, all that stuff. But anyway, so when we went to his village, we visited this school, and the state was quite bad. I mean, there was no chair, no library. It was like an abandoned building. So Johnson had organized a football event in his village, and they used that one classroom in that school change the thing to sportswear. And he was asking them, is this a school? Is it abandoned school? What's happening? They're like, yeah, this is a school. So he was quite shocked. He literally called me, Precious, come and speak. This is a school. This is still happening. Because we hadn't been home in a while. But anyway, so we were quite shocked, oh wow, that is quite bad. So we were asking them questions about the school, and they're just saying about the struggle, the struggle of that student space in terms of access to educational resources. And so obviously when we came back, we were quite passionate about this, and we wanted to raise books and educational resources to send to people, really. So we kind of, him, his brothers, and myself, was talking about different ideas. Okay, maybe we can set up a charity or something. Because, back then, you can't just tell people, give me your books without any form of, any context of society or anything. So we had to set up a student volunteering group at the University of Kent. And so we started collecting books from, we had some graduate students who were, for example, traveling back to, Europe, Asia, but they couldn't take their books. They're quite heavy. So they would leave them or throw them away. So we would collect them. And then we send out emails to schools around Canterbury. Barton School was actually one of the ones that donated. The University of Kent, students donated as well. So that's kind of how we started. So in our first year, we raised about 11,000 books or so in the first year of just being a student group. But anyway, so we kind of had to think, okay, do we need to carry this on or not? Someone needs to run it full time. Anyway, so Thompson kind of stepped up. We all stepped up, kind of run it in our own time. But Thompson kind of took the lead. So we registered it in 2012. And then that's how it became a charity, really. So basically what we do is we collect donated books that could have gone to landfill, and we send them to students and teachers who need them in Africa. These books are really good. I mean, they're not bad. They're not torn as such. Obviously, the processing team processes them and then gets rid of the ones that are badly worn out or in a bad state. But it's just giving people access to books. It's not saying, okay, take these books and replace them with your country curriculum, because every country has their own curriculum that they follow, so they have their own book. But it's just saying, okay, take these books and supplement them, add them to what you study. Because I'm not sure how much you know about some parts in Africa where not all students have access to books. 20 kids can share a textbook, even though it's required for the curriculum. But I mean, we believe that some knowledge is universal. So, for example, maths is universal, even if it's written by a Western author or an African author. Maths is maths. The basics of maths is the same. The basics of science is the same. I mean, you are in the health field, so the basics of that is the same. So we kind of say, okay, why not take this, add it to your knowledge of science to help you. Teachers who, for example, can't afford or don't even have access to these books. Like I just said at the beginning, my preparation for lecture starts the week before, and it involves reading books, reading articles. And most of the teachers don't have access to prepare for their lectures or their teaching with students. So can you imagine the huge limitation they're facing because they don't have access to books? But here, let's say in the UK or other parts of the world, these books, if it looks a bit old or if it's finished, or let's say I don't know, I have books on the shelf and I've finished reading them, I can get rid of them. People get rid of them, throwing them throughout landfill or recycling them. But someone somewhere needs the knowledge, So that's kind of what we do, and we just. So we kind of have two angles: donating books that could have gone to landfill to people who need them, and extending the life and impact of books. So why not extend the life of your book by donating them to someone who needs them instead of throwing them to landfill? So it has like a educational but environmental aspect to it as well. Hope I haven't bored you guys, but that's basically what we do. But if you want to find out more, we have a website anyway.
No, definitely. I'll be putting the link down below so everyone can go and donate books, because it's such a great cause. I just think it's amazing. What is the main role that you play in this charity?
Okay, so I'm the director of operations, fancy name, but basically what it means is that I deal with projects. So we're demand based. So we don't just say to people in Africa who needs books, okay, take these books. We're going to bring these books to you. No, we actually have on our website, as you will see, we have a donate page where, for example, people who are donating books from anywhere can donate. But then we also have a request page where people who are requesting for books can fill out a form. That form actually also has different categories. So, for example, someone might say, I want maths, I want science, I want novels. So it's not us giving them the materials or the subjects, but they're the ones choosing. So I deal with that application when it comes in, verifying that they're real school or real organizations, and how does someone. So yeah, I deal with all of that. I also deal with our impact reports, so I follow up on projects that we've donated books to. I kind of follow them up to, take photos or send a survey. So we have a survey, so I send them the survey to complete. So the survey asks them different questions. How did you find the book? Were they relevant? Were they useful? How are they useful for learning the students, and for the teachers? How are they useful for the teachers preparing? How is it useful for the environment? That you guys are in. For example, because we foster, the drive to learn, for example, and we get so many reports, like positive reports. I mean, we had a report from Zimbabwe where a lady said that books actually, she said, basically to quote her, she said, truancy is a thing of the past. And she made a quote like, an idle mind, something about an idle mind is it the devil's workplace or something like that. But basically what she was trying to say is that because the students now have access to these books, instead of making trouble or, fighting or bullying, they actually spend time reading and looking at what they can read next. We also have someone from Cameroon who, oddly enough, one of the books that they requested included a Spanish book. And one boy who took the Spanish book and he moved city, he said, because of this book, he knows more than his teachers, and the book helped him to make friends because his friends in the classroom wanted to know what he knew. They were asking, how did you know this? And it was just one book, so the impact is just huge. If you think about it, if you don't have access to electricity or computer, what else are you going to use? Isn't it a book? I know they say very soon books is going to go out of fashion or no use to anymore, but I don't know if it is. I doubt it, because maybe in this part of the world, but where electricity is so limited, books are always useful, and so we're just trying to create that easy access, especially for those in the rural part of Africa. So I deal with the projects. So here in the impact, quite encouraging. And then what else do? I deal with fundraising as well. So we have a small fundraising committee. So asking for money, applying for funding, and then corporate partners. So we have some generous donors. So we have 90, and we've had masculine who donated books and funded shipments in the past as well. So that's kind of what I do. What else? And then I help her as well if it needs to. So I kind of help her because I only do. Because I deal with education. If as a person needs something, or Chumang or Gideon, if it's something I can do, I help as well.
Yeah. That also sounds full on. So obviously you're a lecturer and then you're director of operation, I can't remember.
Yeah, director of operation, of education, just education.
And then I know that you have 3 beautiful sons, right? So how old are your sons?
Okay, so we have Josiah, who is 6. He's actually 6. He turned 6 in September. And then Ezekiel, who is 4, and Israel, who is 2 and a few months now.
So with all that and 3 kids, I don't know how you do it. I don't know. So my next question, which obviously leads into, how do you manage all 3? Because that just sounds like even the just job description of both of them sound enough. And I have 1 child, and that's enough for me. So how do you manage to be a lecturer, work for the charity, and manage 3 kids? And you're also married. So how do you manage them all?
I guess the key word there is kind of manage. And I'm a Christian, so I do believe God's grace. Not that God doesn't give grace to everyone, but God gives specific graces for what you need at a time or what you're dealing with. But I think it's also sacrifice and partnership. So what I mean in terms of sacrifice is, for example, there might be days when if I didn't have 3 kids, I maybe actually doing pedicure or calling friends and just gisting on the phone. But instead, I'm using that time to, do homeschooling, for example, or complete some schoolwork that he's doing, or just, I don't know, prepare some meal or lunch for the kids, something like that. So there is some sacrifice. In terms of, so I think the sacrifice is also two ways, not just me as well, it's also constant. So I mean, right now that I'm recording, Johnson is downstairs with the boys. So he's sacrificing his time. He could be doing something else, but he's sacrificing his time then and keep them downstairs while I do this. So it's two way. And it's just knowing when and what to sacrifice, you know. I mean, sacrifice sounds like a bad word, but it's not. I don't know what kind of what softer word to use, but I just think you need some sacrifice from both partners. You know, it doesn't mean, especially if you're both working, but I mean, if one person is working and the other one is not working, of course, the other one is going to bear more in terms of the homework. But again, it's sacrifice as well. You're both sacrificing and having an agreement on, okay, we're going to sacrifice. I'm going to sacrifice instead of me being home and not working and chilling, you know, just watching TV or whatever you do in your me time. I'm going to look after the kids while you work. Something like that. And partnership, what I mean by partnership is either with your husband or your partner or whoever that helps you with kids. It's having an agreement with them in terms of what we're going to do. It's just having a plan, having, you know, that partnership, that agreement that, okay, we're in this together. This is what we're going to do. I'm here to encourage you and help you to get where you want to get to or what you want to do, even though we have kids. You know, we're in this together. We're going to partner together and see how it works. And then, yeah, just grace, I guess. So that's kind of how we deal with it. It sounds a lot, but it is a lot, so I'm not going to sugarcoat it. But again, it just means some things you both just have to sacrifice. And it's not a permanent sacrifice, it's just temporary, it's seasonal because the kids grow. I mean, our kids, they're 4 now. Remember when they were younger than 4, the demands they put on us was different than the demands they're putting on us. You know, the demands Ezekiel is putting on me now is bit challenging questions or, you know, not listening as much as he would. But before, the demand is I have to feed him more. I have to, you know, watch him more. I have to be there. But now I don't have to be as much. He's more independent. He can feed himself. And he's at school. So there's that free time. So yeah, I think it's just having in mind that sacrifice is seasonal. And even if you don't have kids, though, you still have some sacrifices that you make in life, actually, if you think of it that way. So I know some people will be like, oh, I don't want to have kids because, you know, it's too much. Or, you know, it's going to stop me from achieving what I want to achieve. But even if you don't have kids, there are other things in your life that would require you to do some sacrifice anyway. So yeah, so that's kind of how I manage. If that helps, I don't know if that makes sense, but that's how I manage.
I particularly like the word sacrifice, actually, because I get how it's used in quite a negative way. It has a connotation, but when you think about it, you are really sacrificing other things for the better of your kids, I guess. I guess there's some reward in your sacrifice. So it's not as negative as it sounds, or I would have thought it sounded before. My next question is, as we are in COVID, how has that changed? Because I can only assume that they're all at home. So how has that changed the dynamics, like, have with COVID around?
Okay, so, I mean, the first one was in March. So that gave us a taster, or kind of prepared us for the next 2 lockdowns, third one we're in. But it was, at the beginning, it was stressful, I would like, for all of us. Because, you know, all of a sudden they're home, they have tasks that they have to do. Obviously, the task is for them, but it's for you, the parents. But so they have tasks that they have to do, and then you have your own work that you have to deal with. You have meetings that you have to do online. So I think, you know, I'm thankful that we experienced that first lockdown, you know, as a taster for the next ones that came, because they kind of prepared us a little bit. And I think it prepared the schools as well, because their school, for example, they're now doing live, like Teams, live sessions. So, for example, we're talking about the current lockdown. Josiah, for example, the oldest one, he has to connect to his class every day between 8:45 and 9:30, where they do live sessions. and then they have tasks that they do throughout the day. So it's managing that. And Ezekiel, who, they give them work to do on tapestry, which you have to complete as well, and then post the assignment. And then Israel is just running around or chilling with his dad or watching iPad or sleeping or eating. So it's just managing all of that, but it's just having a pattern or a schedule, I think, that works. So, for example, I'm more into the schoolwork than Tonson would be. So, again, the partnership there is that Tonson has to deal with their breakfast, for example, in the morning while I deal with the schoolwork. And, for example, if he's only staying with him while I attend to the others, getting them to complete their schoolwork in that sense. And then in terms of, so it's not bad. At the beginning, it was stressful, but I think now it's easier when you get into a pattern or a schedule and know what you're doing. I think obviously waking up early every morning because I don't drive. I'm used to driving to school, so bless me, had to bear that, that sacrifice of driving them to school Monday to Friday, and I only have to wake up and get them ready. That's all, and I'm done. But now I'm waking up to get them connect them to school while he deals with breakfast, for example. So it's just that waking up and getting them to do the work. Especially because sometimes I sleep quite late, and sometimes I work too late, or I'm watching something late. So waking up that early can be a bit of it can be painful, but I got used to it. So yeah, so it wasn't easy, but once we've got a pattern, it's okay now.
I guess with kids, routine is always helpful. It just helps you maneuver throughout your day, because if not, I don't know. Luckily for me, Nyasha, who's my husband, if you guys don't know, if you don't watch my channel, he got the worst end of it, because I was working out of the house because I was a key worker, and he was here 24/7 with Daniel, and he was just like, I cannot wait. So I can only imagine how he dealt with 3. He was like, I cannot wait till the school's open, because he would be like in a meeting all day, and you have in the background go, Daddy, can I have this? Can I eat this? Can I eat this? Basically, everyone in his workplace now knew him because he was there all the time. So I know that got a bit frustrating for him, but yeah, when I came home, I'd try and help and take over, but he had been with him the whole day, and he was like, I've had enough. So I can only imagine, but yeah, I guess routine helps.
Yeah.
Do you ever feel, because you wear so many hats, do you ever feel mum guilt? And if you do, how do you deal with it?
I don't, to be honest. I mean, I don't feel mum guilt, but what I feel like that's what I feel is, I guess that's about any mom. So for example, I prioritize the kids a lot. So, for example, pre-COVID, if we had a date, for example, and someone is looking after them, I would be like, hey, are they okay? What's happening? So I'm that type. But I don't feel mom guilt, because I feel like so long as I am doing my best to meet their needs and help them and they're happy, and, I love them, we love them, we are doing all we can to make sure that they are alive. But that they're living their best life as kids, because what else? I mean, how else do kids live their best life? So I don't actually feel mom guilt. I just feel like everything has its time and season. And, with our kids, there were stages to this point where they had more time, where I was on them 24/7, making sure that they don't fall. Like before they started walking, for example, you're on them, you're making sure they don't hit their head. But you don't do that as much anymore when they're 6 or 4 or even 2.5. I mean, Israel, of course, we watch out for him climbing and everything. But I don't really feel mom guilt. If I need to do some work, for example, if I'm in a meeting and let's say Thompson has to go to work, he has to go to Africa, it's Josiah, I give him work to do, and in detail, they have work that they have to be like, okay, right. So I have a meeting, you guys need to kind of stay quiet, do your work, Israel is going to be on his iPad just for a few minutes, so just watch out for everyone. So they're fine, they do their work. Well, I mean, obviously sometimes, like you said with Nyasha, where Nathaniel will come in, they come in. It's like they find that the best time to ask you for biscuit is when you're in a meeting, because they know that you're going to just say, yeah, go and take the biscuit. Go and take the biscuit, because you don't want them to interrupt. But thankfully, everyone is so used to, kids being in the background. And what I do now, straight away, I just apologize. So sorry, guys. Kids are in the background. Like, oh, it's fine. So when they go for biscuit, I'm like, no, go and sit down. So I don't feel mom guilt. And the kids know. The kids know that I have to work. Because how else, they're young. We don't tell them, a lot of details about our finances as such. But they have an idea that you have to work to get the things that they have. So without work, we're all going to be suffering. So they know that mommy has to work. They know that daddy has to work, and they're fine with it because they get their time. Everything in our life gets their time. So our kids get their time. Our work get its time. I try to get their time as well, and we try to get our own time as husband and wife. So I don't feel mom guilt. I just feel like there just needs to be a balance. And I don't know. I understand some people may feel mom guilt, but I can say don't. Because as long as you're doing your best for your kid and you're not purposefully abandoning and neglecting your kid, then of course there can be mom guilt or father guilt there. But so long as you're not purposefully doing it and you're doing it for your best interest, for your interest, because you're an individual as well. I'm a mom, but I'm an individual. So I have my life as well as their life that God has given us to take care of. So no, I don't feel mom guilt. What about you?
I think it's a good way to remind yourself not to feel mom guilt. I definitely feel mom guilt because, I don't know, maybe because he's the only child at the moment. And when he's like, oh, can you play with me? I'm just like, I'm tired today. I don't want to play. I don't want to spend like 1 hour fixing your tiny Lego. I just don't want to do it. But then I feel bad because I'm like, I really should spend time playing. I mean, I'm not saying that I say no all the time, but some days I'm just like, I don't want to play with you today. So sometimes when I reflect, I do feel guilty, like, I feel like, I'm a bad mom. I should spend more time playing. And maybe I want to watch my rubbish ratchet TV or something that's not even interesting. And he wants me to play. And I'm thinking, I'd rather watch TV than play with you, to be honest. But on a reflection, I'm like, I feel so bad. Like, I really should play with him or stuff like that. So I do think I feel mum guilt at different points in time of my life, or different points in time as a mum. But I think, as you said, it's important to remember that you're really doing the best that you can, and you are an individual as well. So I guess it's just reminding yourself. I think most people do have mum guilt, but I guess they also know they are trying their best to do what they can do. So I think it's about reminding yourself. But I don't know, one day, maybe when they move out, I'll feel guilty. I don't know.
I mean, I think also it's to also think of it that it's also in the best interest of the kid, because if you're not, so for example, let's say when you are feeling tired and you are in the name of mom guilt or not, making your kids feel abandoned, you play with them, but then you're getting frustrated often while you're playing with them because you needed that time. It's better that you explain to them, sorry, I can't do it now. I'm on the rest of it. And, maybe you play rather than forcing them to play, because, we should play with our kids all the time, forcing them to play and you're smacking at them every time. I just think there needs to be a balance, and your well-being is important for them as well, because if you're not in a good state, how are you going to take care of them? How are you going to even play with them? So I think, there just needs to be a balance. I do understand mom guilt, people feeling mom guilt, like, for example, what you said. But it's just reminding yourself, look, we're humans, we're individuals, our kids are individuals. And kids understand. I mean, kids are so, like, they adapt. I'm sure your kids are, your kids are adapted with this lockdown. And, they kind of stop talking about it. They're kind of adapted with what is happening. And the way, for example, Josiah, their class, the way they adapted to online learning in a week, I'm like, wow, us adults will still, some of our students are still complaining about online learning since March, and the kids have like got on with it. They're looking forward to the next day. They're like, oh, are we going to do online tomorrow? Oh, okay, Saturday. Okay. We'll wait just to do this. So they've got on with it. They've adapted so easily. So it's just knowing that kids, they do understand. You just need to explain it to them, and it's for their own well-being as well. And we can't just, I don't know, we just need to be careful. This culture of always saying yes to kids, I mean, there's this idea of I don't say no to my kids, so it's not the first word. I don't really agree with them. In the many books I've given their reasons why yes is better, but come on. I mean, when we were kids, but now we're in the real world, we're adults, and I'm thankful I didn't hear yes all the time, but even when I got no, I had a reason. Even when I didn't have a reason from our parents, I understood later on. So I don't know, I'm not really into this yes to kids all the time, just because we want to give them full life or show them that we love them. Our kids know we love them.
I don't say, even outside, I don't care where we are rules. Even when it's time to go naughty corner, I don't care. You will find naughty corner in the grass, okay? So I completely agree with that. Yeah, so with all these hats that you wear and being a mom and raising kids, how do you find time for yourself? Like where?
Well, I find time in little moments. So during the day, because I mean, the kids are not like full on running around all the time. I mean, they're downstairs right now and they're doing, they're probably with their dad, maybe deciding things with Legos and showing his dad his Legos. I mean, this morning he was doing Lego and show you how it comes from a car into a dinosaur. He's into that. He's quite artistic, the fire. And Ezekiel prefers to sometimes just watch TV, sing songs. He's into singing. So they kind of, you also have to realize that as much as you as parents have your time, the kids also want to have their time. They don't want to always play with you. I mean, for example, I remember one time when I was like, oh, Dad, you want to come and sit with me and play with me or stay with me? Like, no, I'm doing something in the room. I'm playing with my toys. Okay, fair enough. Sorry. So they do have their time. We have moments where we play with them, but you're also remembering that they have their time. So when they're having their time, I have my time. So, when they're having their time, I just be there on my phone or watching something, one of those rubbish series, or not rubbish, I quite like some of the series that I watch. But anyway, one of those series, you're just there. But then sometimes the only thing is that your me time may not be as long as you would have had if you didn't have kids, but you still get some me time. So I might be watching a series that is 1 hour long. But then the kids may interrupt me 30 minutes into it because they've had enough of their me time. So yeah, I do get my me time, but it's not as long as you would if you didn't have kids. So having longer me time, it kind of needs to be planned. The constant, okay, you do this with the kids, you stay with them while I go and do something else. But yeah, I don't know, my me times are quite weird. I don't really have me times where I'm just sitting and doing nothing, because I'm so used to doing stuff. Like I'm either working, something to respond to. I rather get things done and out of the way and relax later. So my me times, I either watch something or I quite enjoy cooking as well. So I don't know if that's even a me time. But yeah, so I do get some me time, little moments or shorter me times. But if I want like a longer one, then it has to be planned. That's where that partnership kicks in, and the other partner has to sacrifice something, and vice versa.
I love the way you put that it's in little short bursts, because when I think of me time, I really don't think of it like that. I think of it as in like, Nyasha, take your child. I'm going to spend 1 hour in the bathtub, or like, I don't know, going to a spa or something like that. But actually, yeah, now that you're saying it, when I think about it, you do get a lot of me time when they don't want to play with you. Because sometimes they're like, oh, do you want to come and sit here and give me a cuddle? And it's like, no, mummy, I've got to do the Lego first. I'm like, okay, fine. I thought you'd want to spend time with me, but okay. So yeah, that is true. Actually, you do get those little bursts of time. And also, I think when he goes to bed. Sometimes when I've had enough of him, he goes early. But when he goes to bed, I have the time to like do whatever. As you said, like catch up on stuff, clean, whatever, or watch stuff. But yeah, I don't think of it like that all the time. But it's true, you do get snapshots in the day where you can just, I don't know, go on your phone or do whatever.
I think it's just, like, I don't know what it is, but maybe the world or maybe us humans, we tend to complicate things for ourselves where someone defines what me time means. Like when we watch Hollywood movies, they say, "Oh, I'm going to the spa with my girl, so that's my me time." And so it becomes so common that what me time means is me being alone for a long time. But we do get me time throughout the day. Even when you're working 9 to 5, when you have short bursts of moments when you have me time. I mean, I used to work. I was a shop assistant, New Look. I used to work in New Look when I was young. But I mean, for example, when you were serving on the till, it's not that when it's not busy anymore, you have a pause and you reflect or look around what's happening. So there are short bursts of me time, no matter the situation. It's just kind of reconditioning ourselves on what me time means or redefining what me time means to you, and if it's enough.
I think that's so true. I definitely think society has a big role to play in thinking what me time is, or even having this conversation about like, how do you even manage all three? And I guess it's really down to how you want to do it and not how society thinks you should do it. It's fine to be flexible. It's fine to not finish this or do that and do this. So yeah, that's quite eye-opening actually. Society does put pressure on us to, if you have to be a mum, be the perfect mum. If you're in your job, you need to be like the best. If you're this, you need to do this. But then I guess you can do all three in your own way, and that's also okay. And you can still feel fulfilled and accomplished in all those three. Obviously, like I was saying, you get snippets we were just saying you get snippets of day to have me time. How about time with your husband? How do you allocate time with your husband? How do you fit that in as well?
Quite funny. I mean, you kind of, but the funny thing is this. Because, okay, we have kids. When you come, so I spend time with Hanson a lot in terms of whether it's on the phone or texting, even if he's not there physically, because we have to talk about the kids. We have to talk about books to Africa, for example. So we do have time together. Okay, so it's not like we never. But in terms of, so if you're talking about romantic time, if that's what you're talking about, yeah, romantic time has to be planned. It has to be planned. But we have our time when the kids go to bed, for example. They go to bed from 7:30, between 7:30 and 8. They go to bed. But obviously, Israel is 2.5. But we're not really into sports and athletes and passions right now until they're a bit older. But Israel right now is staying downstairs with us and he sleeps with us anyway. But yeah, so the older ones go to bed from 7:30 to 8. And we have our me time, and our me time could just be just watching something together or just catching up on how the day has gone, or again, talking about Books for Africa or something I need an idea on my workplace or something to an idea on, or, on in terms of Books for Africa. Or, for example, something quite good. I call him jack of all trades, quite good with everything. So, for example, technical stuff are not really my forte as such. I do well. I'm great. I'm okay. But, if I, obviously when the volume earlier was playing up, I had to get into help. So, yeah, those things. So we have our me time or romantic time. I don't know if I'll call it romantic, or husband and wife time when the kids go to bed. But in terms of romantic, in terms of dates and all that stuff, again, you have to plan it. I mean, before we used to go on dates, before COVID. So you would see, we have a friend that we kind of ask, "Oh, are you guys around?" So if you guys can look for the kids, and then we do the same for them as well. That's pre-COVID. But now, I mean, we're home 24/7. Well, he has to go in, and I kind of have to go in, but not now. Before COVID, I had to go in like once a week for work stuff, like teaching. So yeah, we just do it when the kids are off bed. For pre-COVID planned dates, for example. Okay.
So basically plan it. I mean, to be honest, with COVID, where we're going, everywhere's closed. You can't go cinema, you can't do anything really.
Yeah.
How do you find, so do you find that that's been a big change from before you had kids and married and everything else to now? Is it just the planning that's changed? Would you be more spontaneous before? How's it changed?
Seems like a long time ago.
You get into a routine, innit? You kind of forget. Like, what did we do before?
That's why I'm like, I mean, we started having kids in 2014. Before that, yeah, I mean, it was a bit more spontaneous. Yeah. So, for example, we could just decide to just go, we love busy restaurants. So we could decide to just go there, for example, just spontaneously. Or I remember when we went to watch Lion King in London. So yeah, it was a bit more spontaneous because the kids were not there. So yeah, of course it was different.
How has been the jump to moving from having one child, your business, your charity, to now having three? How did the dynamics change?
Yeah. So basically, before the kids, we had babies in terms of we had Books to Africa before the kids. And I also had my PhD. Well, Thompson had his PhD he was dealing with and Books to Africa. I only had Books to Africa and my master's, And then from there, when he finished his PhD, he then only had Books to Africa and a wife to deal with. And I had a husband and PhD to deal with. So we kind of had, things that required our time before the kids came. So I kind of think that started preparing us a little bit. And then we had our kids. I mean, mind you, when I had Josiah, I was still doing my PhD. I was just collecting data. So it wasn't easy. So when I was pregnant with Josiah, I was collecting research data with him for my thesis. So, and then having him, it was okay. It was a bit hard at the beginning because, I'm a new mom dealing with all of that. And I had a C-section. I had an emergency C-section. So going through labor, I was induced. Going through induced labor, which is ridiculously painful. I still remember the pain until today. Anyway, going through induced labor to, being rushed into theater, that was a bit traumatic. And having this kid and PhD to deal with, it was quite challenging for me. It was challenging enough. But I kind of adapted because I was working from home. The PhD didn't require me to go in to work. I could work from home, which was great. Just needed to work on my laptop. And when they're young, they sleep all the time. And, I had my mom come for a few weeks. Hutchinson's mom, bless her, lovely. I had Hutchinson's mom for 3 months staying with us. Yeah, so that was quite helpful. So it's just adapting from there. And then jumping to 2, I think jumping to 2 is a little bit harder to jump into 3, I think, for me anyway. It might be different from others. So jumping to 2, you're used to 1, right? And then the second one comes, and their age gap is not much, they're Josiah is 1 year, 10 months older than Ezekiel, you see. So it required a lot of sacrifice from Thompson and partnership, let's say. Because I had another cesarean. I've been had cesarean for all my kids. I elected to have cesarean for the second one. It was harder jumping from 1 to 2 than 2 to 3. Because with 1 to 2, once you adapt it, you're kind of used to it. So 3, 4, or whatever, I haven't had 4, but 3 just seems like an addition because you're kind of, although each kids, they're different, but the basics, the general foundation of looking at kids is the same. But it's just, each kid is different. But I think it was harder jumping from 1 to 2 than 2 to 3 for me anyway.
And okay, so my last question before it ends is basically, if you had to give 2 pieces of advice to someone who's in a similar situation, who basically has a business and it's working full time and has kids, or is thinking of starting a business, or thinking to add a child to the family, those kind of circumstances, what would be 2 pieces of advice you would give them?
Well, first of all, if they're a Christian, I would say lean into God more. That's if they're Christian, obviously, or religious. Lean into your faith, so you need that. And the other one would be just not going with what the world has defined as what you need to do, if that makes sense. This is what we've been talking about in the sense that defining things for yourselves. I mean, you're in a home, so you and your husband or your partner, whoever it is, defining things for yourself. This is what we think things is. This is what we think me time is, or this is what we think the kids would need so that they don't feel neglected or abandoned. This is what we think and we partner with, and we will sacrifice our time to agree that this is what we believe will work for our family. So I think it's just having that mindset and that perspective. So it's just having your perspective with your partner of what works for you, not what the world says works for you, or what theories are said, or what someone has gone out and collected data. And I mean, data is brilliant, don't get me wrong, but you just have to kind of know that data has its limitations as well. And use some that are useful for you, but those that don't work for you, just leave it, because you're just going to force yourself into stress and unnecessary pressure to just defining what things mean for you so long as you're healthy and for the well-being of your family. That's what I would say. And if they already were in a business and they have a job and they have a kid and they're thinking of adding another one, so they're already doing brilliantly. It's just not letting what the world defines as this is what it should be, and applying it to your family. Just being careful with what you apply or what you take from out there and applying it.
I love that. I think the biggest thing that I've taken away with this is basically define everything for yourself and don't take what society defines, whatever it is, for you. Don't let society define things for you. Define it for yourself. So whether it's in your family, your work, your job, friends, whatever it is, define it in a way that fits in with your lifestyle, and don't feel pressured to adhere to social standards. So this has been a really, really helpful conversation. And the way you sound, I know it sounds quite easy, but I think it comes from a place where you're able to define things for yourself, so it works for you. Because when I think of someone who's like working full time and have kids, I think, gosh, how are they doing it? It sounds crazy. Like how, like even when you're defining your job, I'm like, oh my gosh, it sounds like too much work. So like, I think it is very important having this conversation that define things for yourself and not to society's standard. And you should be cool. Just go with the flow. No one's perfect. Do what you can and don't kill yourself over it. Like, really have one life.
I mean, nothing is easy. It doesn't mean I don't have days when I'm stressed or when I'm tired or when I'm snapping at something or the kid. I mean, I have those days. But it doesn't mean that I'm not handling things well, or that because I'm doing so many things I can't hold. No, even when I was single, I was still snapping anyway. So it's just like you said, because you have to think especially if you're in a partnership, or if you're or single self and you have your own kid, you have to define things for what works with them. What is going to work for the kids, especially if you think of a kid that is, for example, has autism. They like patterns. They like things being done in a certain way. And not all theories or all books that you've read that say this is what you should do with an autistic child, it would not work for your child. It may work differently. Some of the things they said may work, but it's just you being able to read the situation and what works for you or what works for your partner. And, it's not easy. I may sound like, oh, it's great, it's easy, go and do it. But you only do it if it's something that you want to do, not doing it because, it's good to wear different hats. No, if it's something that you feel you need to do or achieve in life, do it. But define it for yourselves, you and your partner and your family, rather than just, like you said, picking and running into things like that.
So that brings us right to the end of this conversation. Thank you so much. We've learned so much, and I really hope that people have taken some nuggets from this, because I know I have, and I hope they're blessed by it. And thank you so much for coming on here, Dr. Precious, to share your tips with us and how you get through or breeze through life. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me. on nananyasha, so it's quite nice. And I'll be watching. Wishing you all the best and success with it and growth. Yeah, thank you, and thanks everyone for watching.
Thank you guys for watching. Make sure you're back again next week with another interesting topic that hopefully you guys will learn something from. And make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and share with your friends. So we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.